Hello everyone, I decided to change things up a bit by showcasing my PlayStation collection ranging from PS1 all the way to PS4. Now this will not include a PS5 because I'm not a bot nor am I rich and I have not been able to find a PS5 online or in stores. And you know what? The closest was a digital edition at Target, but I don't want a digital edition. I want to have a physical edition to upgrade the new PS4 games to PS5 and play 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray discs. I settled for a 4K player because unlike a PS5, it has Dolby Vision, it's much cheaper, and you can actually find those in stores. So before I continue, feel free to comment down below your favorite video games in your own collection, whether it's PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, PC, whatever. Share down in the comments below your favorite video games from your collections. Grab some drinks and a snack and enjoy. Here we go. Hello everyone, starting with the PS1 as my first video game. My brother had a PlayStation 1 a year before I did. He got it when it arrived in 1996. Before the DualShock controller, I wanted to play so many games, but he went ahead and got me a video game when he worked at Circuit City called MotorTune Grand Prix, from the creator of Gran Turismo. It was like a kid's racing game. I love this. This was my first PlayStation game, my first video game ever. Thanks to my brother Rudy, he gave it to me, and this is a blast. And an underrated game at that. After that, we no longer have the case. It was one of those long kind of VHS looking PlayStation cases, but my brother loved Raiden and Raiden 2, the jet fighting games in the arcade, and it was the Raiden Project. Underrated game. Next, another one that my brother and I played endlessly was Gauntlet Legends. Many arcade players and Nintendo players recognize this. This is from the Gauntlet video games. I love it. Before Baldur's Gate, before Marvel Ultimate Alliance, we had Gauntlet. Then the video game that changed everything and really got me into like cinematics and story-based games, and that is Final Fantasy VII. This, Ares' death still hits me. And yeah, 3 discs of just an epic story with Cloud versus Sephiroth, Cian Barrett, Tifa. Can't get any better than this, the RPG that changed video games forever. Then we have its sequel, Final Fantasy VIII, completely different story, but just as influential and groundbreaking and really underrated, I feel. I love Final Fantasy VIII. It's on 4 discs, and I actually think it's better than 7. This is a great video game. We no longer have the cover, but my brother and I used to always play Mortal Kombat Trilogy, which is pretty much the first 3 Mortal Kombats put together. You get to choose between all the characters of the first 3 arcade games. Next is a video game that I used to play all the time, and that is Spyro the Dragon. I used to play this endlessly. It was the first video game I actually beat from start to finish. First time was without a memory card, and then I lost all the data, realized I needed a memory card, so I got this. After that, we have Crash Bandicoot, a great platform game. I mean, Crash is to PlayStation what Mario is to Nintendo and Sonic is to Sega. Then we have Crash 2. This is actually the game that my parents gave me when I got a PS1 for Christmas, and it was a DualShock version. I love this. Who could forget the snowball level? Unfortunately, I no longer have the cover, but Crash Warped was another fun game in the year 1998 along with Spyro. My mom let me pick this out at Toys R Us back when you had to like get a paper slip and go to the front office to like pick up a physical copy. Then we have Crash Team Racing, the original one. Kind of like Mario Kart with Crash. Very fun. And then back when you needed a multi-tap adapter system, this was a great game to play with friends. Crash Bash. Oh, 4th and 5th grade, perfect time with this. Then we have another great RPG called Wild Arms, kind of like an RPG Western anime. I love Wild Arms. They had a couple of sequels on PS2, but this one's a classic. Then we have the original Resident Evil 2. This game scared the shit out of me when I was younger. Me and my brother used to play this as zombie dogs. I love playing as Leon and Claire. This got me into Resident Evil and made me a zombie fan, while also scaring me. Then we have what I think is one of the best superhero games. You can check out my playthrough recently on the channel, Spider-Man from 2000. This game is a blast. Like this, Spider-Man 2018 and Batman Arkham Asylum, I think, are the best superhero video games. Then we have the sequel, Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro. Then we have Toy Story 2. This was a blast I got in the year 1999. Yeah, 2000. It might have actually been 2000. It was one of those years. It was right after Toy Story 2, but I got it for Christmas, and I love playing as Buzz Lightyear. It's like the Army Soldier video games, but with the Toy Story characters. Then we have another platformer, actually around the same time, if not before Crash, called Rayman. This game is one of the hardest video games I've ever played in my life, but it's a lot of fun. What I want to make a movie out of later, Jet Moto. I love Jet Moto. Like, this game is a blast. Being on these, like, futuristic jet skis and racing, like this is a cool game. Totally 90s, totally futuristic, but one of the best PS1 games. And then who could forget Frogger, he's back. I had such a hard time playing this when I was younger, but it's a fun game. I wouldn't mind seeing this with modern graphics. It might be pretty disturbing, but overall, I mean, if you played it on an arcade or an older consoles, this is a throwback to a simpler time, to say the least. I wish I owned the video game Croc. I do not. So let's go on to PS2. Starting with PS2, we have my first PlayStation 2 game, transition from PS1 with Crash Wrath of Cortex. This was a lot of fun, especially the little sphere level. Yeah, first time we saw a jump from PS1 to PS2, my mind was blown. Now looking back, I'm like, wow, we really come a long way, and it's sad to see that PS2 is now regarded as a retro console. I feel old. Then we have Jak 2. This is fantastic. Jak and Daxter was a lot of fun, but this is where the series kicks off and really turns into something completely different, and this is criminally underrated. I also love Jak 3. Jak 3 is a perfect conclusion to the original trilogy before New Frontier, and yeah. Then we have Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. This is getting a remake, and yeah, pretty much Arabian Nights meets Aladdin with like a twist. To me though, the action gets going with Warrior Within. Who could forget I Stand Alone from Godsmack? Yeah, right after Scorpion King, this game is a blast, and I love that they went with a more mature route for the sequels. Then we have Two Thrones, fantastic third chapter. Oh man, these games were epic back in the day. And then this one doesn't have a case, but it's Punisher with Thomas Jane, another underrated Marvel game. And it kind of ticks me off. I used to have Grand Theft Auto Vice City stories before my nephews took it and damaged it, but like, I got carded for that game, and I got Mortal Kombat Armageddon in this game without being carded. The guy was a jerk. My brother's like, he owns the other Grand Theft Auto games and all these R movies. Why are you carding us? He didn't let me get it, but then my brother bought it. It's like, you can't buy this game for him. It's just like, I'm buying it. My brother's not. And then he gave it to me right in front of the guy. What a jerk, but yeah, I always associate that memory with this game. But yeah, this is a fun game. And follow-up to the 2004 film. Then we have Ghost Rider, another movie tie-in that's much like God of War with Ghost Rider. You have motion comic cutscenes, but you get Blade with the Midnight Suns. Love it. Then we have Resident Evil 4. Oh my god, this was a blast. I used to have Code Veronica, but I sold it. I kind of wish I kept it, but this game still is a blast. So much that I had to upgrade it on PS4. Like, this is like PS2 at its finest towards the end of its run. Take me out. Franz Ferdinand with Guitar Hero, the game that changed everything. It's kind of a fad, but you know what? There was a time when this was the biggest thing on earth, and I love this game. What's even better is playing Freebird on Guitar Hero 2. This is the set my mom and dad got me for my birthday, my 15th birthday. This was a blast. Then we get Legends of Rock. Who could forget Devil Down in Georgia, Duel with the Devil? Love it. This is awesome. Then we had World Tour. This was fun for 2009, playing Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. My mom actually drank too much and was like singing along to the songs during our New Year's Eve going to the year 2009. Very funny memories. Then I messed with her saying I wasn't playing Guitar Hero, I was playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and she freaked. Then who could forget Rock the 80s? This is a really good game. I just wish it was longer, but yeah. Someday I'm going to find Metallica and Aerosmith and get it. Then we have Need for Speed Underground. I totally felt like I was Dominic Toretto or Brian O'Connor in Fast and Furious playing this. Like, oh my god, who could forget the soundtrack? Another fun racing game that's actually a sequel to Extreme G Racing is Extreme G Racing Association. Ooh, Noise Therapy song gets me going from last place to first place on this game. It's awesome. And then what I thought was the last Mortal Kombat at the time is Mortal Kombat Armageddon. It was a sad time, but I was so happy to see it rebooted on later consoles, but this is a blast. Also has an awesome story mode. Then we get an underrated sequel from a PS1 game, and that is Driver. The gameplay mechanics, not the best, but the cutscenes, very cinematic. Has Mickey Rourke, Michael Madsen, Bing Rames, Michelle Rodriguez. Like, this game, Pretty awesome. Then who could forget Spider-Man? I wish I had Spider-Man 2. I rented it and played it, but this was fun. Believe me, going from PS1 to PS2 was like such a big leap where it just blew my mind. Hard to believe this is 20 years old this year. Blood Omen 2. Now, I did have Soul Reaver 2 somewhere, but it went missing. This was my brother's, and so was Soul Reaver. But the one that I had that I absolutely loved as a conclusion, wish there was more games or a remaster, was Legacy of Kain Defiance. Ooh. Some people may have not heard this. Play Legacy of Kain. Seriously, it's like the best video game story you'll ever play. Then we have Final Fantasy XII on the PS2. This had a good story. I liked it. But the best one, right after Final Fantasy 7 and 8, in my opinion, is Final Fantasy X. One of the 3 video games I ever cried on at the ending, man. Like this game is a work of art. It's perfection. My personal favorite from the PS2 is Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It's all down south now. I love it. My brother got me this, and on this version, before they took out the music, you could actually hear Billie Jean play on the radio when you start the car in your first mission, and I love it. Then we have GoldenEye Rogue Agent. It was awesome playing the bad guy in this 007 game. Then who could forget From Russia with Love? This was an awesome game featuring Sean Connery. Then my favorite 007 game ever made is Everything or Nothing with Pierce Brosnan. This, to me, will always be his last movie. Then we got 007 Nightfire, very underrated. As far as first-person action, it's probably among the best with Agent Under Fire and GoldenEye and N64. Then who could forget Agent Under Fire? This I actually played a couple of years ago for the first time. I wish I played it back in '02 because this is one of the best James Bond games I've ever played. Then one of my personal favorites, Mission Impossible Operation Surma. Kind of like a wannabe Splinter Cell meets Metal Gear Solid, but I love it. Just wish we had Tom Cruise in it, but it actually predicted the Halo jump before Fallout. Then we have Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. I love this, the first video game where you get to play as Arnold Schwarzenegger. I need to find Terminator 3 The Redemption. That one's actually even better than this, but I can't find it for a cheap price. If you see it, let me know. Then Terminator Dawn of Fate. This was awesome. Before GameStop bought out EB Games, EB Games was such a better store. Found this brand new for $4.99 back in the day, and this game is a must-play along with Terminator Resistance for any Terminator fan out there. Then we have Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings. It's not as good as some of the others, but overall it's not bad. You could definitely tell it's meant for the Wii generation though. My favorite Indiana Jones game is Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. Takes place before Temple of Doom. Oh, this is the best indie game. I'm hoping that Bethesda and Xbox can make one that surpasses this, or at least measures up to it. Then going with superhero action, we have Justice League Heroes, a nice little RPG that's like X-Men Legends and Baldur's Gate. Then we have Superman Returns. It's sad that we have not had too many Superman games, but this is probably the best one. That's based on the movie with Brandon Routh, and he actually gets a bigger role here than he did in the film. Like, he's an awesome Superman. Then we have Batman Begins. I recently played through this right before the Batman. You can check it out on the channel. I love this. Probably my favorite Batman game before Arkham Asylum came out. Then you have Batman Vengeance. Oh, such a classic based in the Bruce Timm verse. And then we have its beat-em-up sequel, Batman Rise of Sin Tzu, which is a villain that's actually created by Jim Lee and is voiced by Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat 95. Last but not least, we have Lego Batman, the original. This tied me over after Dark Knight and before Arkham Asylum on PS3. Probably the last PS2 game I got new. Then starting with PS3, we have the Sports Championship game with the PlayStation Move. I love this. I love playing archery and like gladiator fighting. And then one of my first PlayStation 3 games, I got 3. My mom let me choose on my birthday. One of them was an awesome sequel to Hard Boiled called Stranglehold with Chow Yun-fat. And oh my god, Bullet Time. If you love Matrix and Max Payne, this game is for you. One of the best video games that I wish got a remaster. Then another underrated video game that stars Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville is Dark Sector. The graphics still look pretty good to this day. I love it. The other game that was my first was Spider-Man 3. I love this. This and Superman Returns are actually better than the films. Then we have Injustice Gods Among Us. I got this when it came out. Such a blast. Then we have another underrated video game that's actually better than its sequel/prequel, and that is Mirror's Edge. I love this game. Probably one of the best first-person video games. Think about parkour and running on steroids. Then we have the remake of Twisted Metal. They really need to reboot this. Seriously, with online play now, this game can be a blast. I love this game. Then we get a prequel to Tron Legacy with Tron Evolution. It sucks that the servers went down for online play because I almost platinumed this. But overall, it's a fun fun game, and yeah, I was really into Tron for a while. Before the dark times, before the empire of Disney, we had Star Wars The Force Unleashed, definitely a precursor to Jedi Fallen Order. I love it. Sam Witwer could still play Starkiller. Seriously, get him. They can make a movie out of this. Then we have Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2, not as good as the first and definitely too short, but still a blast. Then we have Ghostbusters the video game, or what I call Ghostbusters 3. This is the third film we never got. Here is like this old Blu-ray demo disc that came with the original PS3 I had. Then we had DC Universe Online. Not bad. I just wish that you got to play as the actual heroes instead of just creating your own, but yeah. I was pretty much the Dark Knight of Steel then with a black and silver suit, like Superman in the Snyder Cut. Then we have Guitar Hero 5. Not bad. And then one of my favorites, it ended with a bang on Warriors of Rock. Oh my god. I love playing There's No Secrets this year by Silver Sun Pickups. Next, we have a Telltale game called The Wolf Among Us. This is underrated. I love playing as the big bad wolf, and it's getting a sequel pretty soon. Then, speaking of films that we never got, Telltale Back to the Future is practically Back to the Future Part 4. I love this, including the cameo from Michael J. Fox, having Christopher Lloyd back. This is how you do a game. Next up, we have Grand Theft Auto Episodes from Liberty City with Lost and the Damned and Ballad of Gay Tony. I always think of The Look by Roxette every time I play this game. I love it. This is a blast. Even better than that, and I remember getting it, is Grand Theft Auto 5. This has been on every console ever since its release, but I always have the original PS3. Like, I've never upgraded. I love this. For a while, Vice City was my favorite, but this takes the cake as the best Grand Theft Auto. I cannot wait to see if they do a 6, but yeah. I always think of Sleepwalking by Chain Gang in 1974 every time I play this. Next up, we have a game that I wish got a remaster, and that is Max Payne 3. This is like Die Hard meets Man on Fire. I love this. The first two Max Paynes are classics, but this one is a third entry that was well worth the wait. I love LA Noire. Perfect game, tragic ending, but it's among one of Rockstar's best games. And then who could forget Red Dead Redemption? This is the Western genre brought into the frontier of games, sequel to Red Dead Revolver, but it's a totally different ball game, almost a reboot in a way. This is the other video game after Final Fantasy X that made me cry at the end. I just knew it was going to happen, but it's a beautiful game. And then we have Mortal Kombat Complete Edition. I love this reboot. They pulled the Star Trek 09, but on this one you get to play as Freddy Krueger, and this is how you do a game. Before that though, and before Injustice, we had Mortal Kombat versus the DC Universe. Quite fun for a rated T game. I love this. This game was a freaking blast. Next up on Batman, we have Batman Arkham Origins. This, even though the gameplay is a bit clunky on the PS3 version, the story is probably one of the best of the Arkham series and is up there with the story of Arkham Asylum in my eyes. Then we have Batman Arkham Asylum. I remember this coming out August 25th of 2009. This video game changed everything. The best Batman game, best superhero game, and you could definitely tell the influence it's had in the past decade. Then we have its great sequel called Batman Arkham City. I love it. Escape from New York meets Batman is pretty much what it is. Before Detroit Become Human, we had Heavy Rain. This is such a heavy game, no pun intended. I love this. This is such a rich story. If you play it on PS4, definitely go ahead, but I love it. It has a little origami with it. But yeah, Heavy Rain is as cinematic as you can get, and they only improved upon their mechanics and storytelling after this game. Before there was Elliot Page, we had Ellen Page and William Dafoe in Beyond Two Souls. In many ways, it's almost like Stranger Things before Stranger Things. I love this. I love it when they make actors look like themselves and do like a virtual interactive story. This is such an awesome game before Detroit Become Human. I mean, I love Quantic Dream. Like, they have some awesome storytelling, and this is one of my favorite, like, narrative games. If a venture does have a name, after Indiana Jones and Lara Croft, it's Nathan Drake with Uncharted: Drake's Fortune. Yeah. Then my brother got me Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. This is even better. I love it. And then I actually really enjoy Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception. I love how it ties to T.A. Lawrence and Lawrence of Arabia. And yeah, that airplane scene was done so much better than it was in the film, and is actually taken from The Living Daylights 007. Next up, we have a Game of the Year edition of Tomb Raider. This is a reboot that I highly enjoyed. You could tell it was influenced by Uncharted, and it's funny because then Uncharted was influenced by Tomb Raider. It's like full circle, but my mom gave this to me. I went through a really rough time in 2013, and my heart was broken. She gave me this on Valentine's Day, right before my birthday. It was a dual gift, and I'm never gonna upgrade. I mean, I have one on PS4 and digital, but I'm always gonna treasure this. This game came to me at a really low point in my life and got me out of the ruts. Other than that, on PS3, I have Tomb Raider Underworld. This is like the classic Tomb Raider, but like after Tomb Raider Legends. I like this. This still has the feeling of like the PS1 Tomb Raider, classic Lara Croft. Definitely like the one Angelina Jolie was based on, and has to do with Norse mythology and Thor and stuff. There's some really cool stuff here, and you can also play with cheats. Platinum this game, it's fun. For 007, we have GoldenEye Reloaded. This is a reimagining of GoldenEye, and I actually enjoy it. I'm just a little ticked that it's Daniel Craig, but still, I love the cover of the theme song, and it is fun, except for that laser in the final level. The last 007 game we had, and it's sad to think of this, 10 years ago, 007 Legends. Great premise, horrible execution. It was rushed. I didn't like that Daniel Craig was in every James Bond. They should have had the other ones, and I did not like that they made Jinx look completely different when everyone else looked like they did in the movies. But other than that, it's a fun first-person shooter in the vein of Call of Duty. Next up is one of my favorite third-person 007 games since Everything or Nothing, and that is 007 Bloodstone. This is a standalone Craig film that could easily be between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall. Then we have a really fun edition of Quantum of Solace that mixes first-person and third-person mechanics. I absolutely enjoy this. Next up, we have The Bourne Conspiracy. It doesn't have Matt Damon, but it's pretty much the Bourne identity. Not a bad early licensed game on PS3. Next up, we have Terminator Salvation. This game's a freaking blast, based on the movie of the same name. And yeah, it's different fighting machines with regular bullets versus plasma rifles, but what can I say, as a Terminator fan, this was highly enjoyable. Next up, it's Game Over, man, with Aliens Colonial Marines. This wasn't the best, but you could definitely tell it's a precursor to Fireteam Elite, and I enjoyed it for what it was. It was a nice game and has a cool DLC with Hick surviving Alien 3. Next up is a game that took years off my life, and that is Alien Isolation. I like the Nostromo edition, how you can play with the original Alien crew, but this Alien was terrifying. Survival horror at its best, but there's moments that just made me want to pull my fucking hair out. I lost about a good 10 years from my life force after playing this game. Next up, we have the original Last of Us. I actually could have got this on PS4, but at a used game store, it was used in like poor condition for $3, but they actually gave me a new copy, so I got this for $3. That wasn't bad. I enjoy it, whatever it is. I have a working console. I don't have to worry about backwards compatibility. This is a classic, and after hearing what happened to Joel, I didn't bother playing the second one. Next up, we have a movie video game edition of Watchmen: The End Is Nigh. I actually have the Watchmen Blu-ray in this, but overall, it's a fun game. The movie and the video game. You get to play as Night Owl and Rorschach. Starting with the PlayStation 4, we have Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age. I love this story. It's a remaster, but on PS4. Next up, we have Detroit Become Human. I enjoyed platinum this, and I love that you can have a choose your own adventure. This is one of the best, most cinematic video games of the past 5 years. Then we have Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. This is probably the best Uncharted. Not as supernatural at the end, but probably the most emotional, and this is probably one of my favorite video game endings to any series ever. Next up, we have Batman Arkham Knight. I got this when I got my Arkham Knight edition of the PS4. This is the reason why I upgraded to PS4, and oh my god, despite the Joker and the way the story was and the Batmobile, this is probably one of the most fluid Batman video games ever. Like, the mechanics are just so sweet, and I love playing as a Michael Keaton Batman or Ben Affleck. I just love this game. This is such a blast, and definitely one of the best Batman games. Next up, we have Injustice: Gods Among Us. My mom got me this, and I enjoyed the upgrade, having all the extras, playing as Stephen Amell's Green Arrow or the Henry Cavill Superman suit. Then we have its sequel, Injustice 2, which gets pretty crazy towards the end of the video game, to say the least. I like playing the Ninja Turtles and Hellboy. Next, we have Mortal Kombat 10. While it's not as good as 9, I love that they actually age the characters, and we get to see what happens later on when they're parents, and see fate be repeated again in many ways. Then we have Mortal Kombat 11. I didn't know there was going to be a complete edition, but I got Aftermath. I love having the Shang Tsung from the movie, seeing, you know, Johnny Cage and Sonya from the films with Christopher Lambert as Raiden. Oh, the story of this with Chronica is awesome. Love playing as a Terminator and RoboCop. This is just a blast. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. This was a fun game to platinum, a beautiful looking game, and definitely one of the best story-driven games I've played. I love it. This was a blast. Then we have Red Dead Redemption 2, which at first doesn't seem as good as the first video game, but I absolutely love it. I mean, Arthur's journey. Next up, we have a story-driven kind of murder mystery called Murderer Sole Suspect, where this detective is murdered and he has to solve his own murder, basically. He has to go after the killer, and it has to do with Salem witch trials. He has to talk to a psychic medium. This is an underrated story-driven game. You can get it on digital for like $1.99 or $2.99 when they have the PlayStation sales. I highly recommend it. This is such an underrated gem. Then we have WWE 2K20. Yes, Roman Reigns and Becky Lynch the Man. I love playing this. To play as John Cena, The Rock. I love playing Andre the Giant and Paige. They're awesome. Has a good soundtrack, but the story mode is where this game really shines. I love that you get to play your own career out. Then we have a remake of Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel. I love how you can play the classic controls. I want to get Crash on physical media. I have Spyro on digital, but I want Crash on physical media to have a companion piece with the PS1 versions. Then we have Rise of Tomb Raider, which is even better than the original Tomb Raider. This game is awesome. My personal favorite Tomb Raider out of all of them is Shadow of Tomb Raider. This is such an underrated video game. The graphics are so perfect, and this was a fun one to platinum, and I wish they would make one more Tomb Raider game because it's one of my favorite action-adventure games. Next up, we have Star Wars Squadrons, which is pretty much like Top Gun in space. And then we have a game that helped me at the start of the pandemic with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I love this with Cal Kestis. This could almost be a movie as well. I love it. It's after Rogue One, the prequels, but before the original trilogy. And then we have Star Wars Battlefront 2 Deluxe Edition. I have never seen a sequel that is so much better than the first one. While it doesn't take me back to Battlefront 2 on PlayStation 2, it's a blast. I love the story. I love how it fills in the gaps and explains what a First Order is better than some movies do. But this game on the online mode is some very, very, very crazy intense fun, and I platinumed this during the start of the pandemic, and it was great playing with an online community when I was stuck inside the house in quarantine. We couldn't go out. This is a game I went to and just escaped from the real world. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. We have Cobra Kai. I love this beat 'em up game. It's like a classic arcade. It's up there with Stranger Things 3 as my favorite TV show tie-in games. Then this video game I'm actually playing right now. I've never played them, but I wanted to play a zombie game after Resident Evil, and that's Telltale Walking Dead. I love the story so far. I'm on New Frontier. That story of Clementine is just deep, and again, Telltale having a choose your own adventure, or should I say the illusion of choice. It's just fantastic. This is an excellent game that I think is better than the TV show. It's more in line with the comics. Then we have Life is Strange Before the Storm. I love this series. This is a prequel to the original Life is Strange. Another game that can mess with your head and deal with the butterfly effect and choices is Life is Strange. Such an underrated video game, even though it has sequels. This game just changed my whole life and just outlook of life itself. And this I got with Until Dawn. After playing Detroit Become Human. I love choose your own adventure games, or games that are based on a player's decision, but this one really messes with your head and just makes you think about fate. Next up, we have the sequel, Life is Strange 2. This is even better. In many ways, I can imagine Life is Strange being like in an X-Men universe in some ways, but this is a deep tale about brothers, and this one hit hard. And the reason why people were pissed at this had nothing to do with the stories, because it had real-world politics that go on right now that they don't want to admit. But what's even better than that, and I think is probably up there with the first, is Life is Strange True Colors. This game was a blast, twists and turns. This girl has these empathetic abilities, and she's trying to find her brother. They're separated in foster care. He gets murdered, and it's solving his murder, and oh my god. This game is just awesome. Speaking of games that are like movies, this one is actually better than the movies, I think, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm working on platinum it. I'm getting the collectibles. I hope to get a platinum trophy soon, but this is Guardians of the Galaxy. Damn, this is an awesome game. And another awesome game, even though it just gets crapped upon lately, I love the story of Marvel's Avengers. This is actually better than the Avenger movies, especially the original Age of Ultron. Infinity War and Endgame are still up there, but this is right there with them in my eyes. This is awesome, and I love Miss Marvel's abilities. I feel that they changed Kamala Khan so much that I'm just do what they did in the comics in this game. Just do that. Seriously. Next up, we have a game that actually measures up to Spider-Man 2000. This is my favorite superhero video game ever. 2018 Spider-Man is the third video game that made me cry at the end, man. I was just like, damn, that hit hard. I have an aunt that I care about deeply that it just hit me, man. It gut punched me. Excellent game. Of course, now I play as Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland Spider-Man, but most of all, I play as Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I love the Tobey Maguire suit. I play that all the time. And then we have Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is an excellent DLC/sequel. Love the soundtrack to this. This is what they should do for a live action film. Next up, we have Death Stranding. This was a long, tedious game, being basically a UPS delivery person, but I loved it with Norman Reedus, Guillermo del Toro, Lindsay Wagner, Lea Seydoux, Mads Mikkelsen. This had a cool story once you got into it. Then we have Vampire, probably my favorite vampire game since Blood Omen 2. I absolutely love this, doing the good and bad side of a vampire. Do you want to kill people? Do you want to let them live? The outcome of the ending affects your decisions, but I did the good ending first so that I can just go and feed upon everyone as a blood-sucking vampire. Next, we have The Order 1886. I love how cinematic this game looked. Awesome game with werewolves. Definitely a hidden gem. Next, we have a game called Until Dawn. Love this. Rami Malek, Hayden Panettiere. Oh my god. This game is just a blast, and it's like a slasher horror film where you get to affect who lives and dies. Then we have Control, an awesome game that can get annoying sometimes with the boss battles and mechanics, but overall it's like Twin Peaks meets the X-Files. I love this. Done by the people who did the original Max Payne and Alan Wake. Next up, we have Mad Max, which would have been cool if it had Tom Hardy or Mel Gibson in it. This is like a Mad Max 5, right after Fury Road. Awesome game, and unlike Fallout, you don't break your leg in the apocalypse, you can actually drive a car. Then we have Resident Evil Origins Collection, which includes 0 and the remake of Resident Evil 1. Hard, but perfect classic Resident Evil. My favorite remake with Resident Evil 2. This game is a blast and just as well done as its original in '98. Then we had a game that I got during the pandemic that scared the shit out of me. This was my June 2020, literally, with Resident Evil 3. Short game, but a fun game to platinum. It was crazy playing on Nightmare mode and Inferno mode. Oh my god, the Nemesis, but I like this remake. Despite what they cut out, it's a lot of fun. Then we have the remaster of Resident Evil 4. What can I say? It's a PS2 game, but on sharper HD graphics. And then we have Resident Evil 5. I love this. It includes everything from the previous one, including the DLC content with Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield. Then we have one of my favorites with Resident Evil 6. This was a crazy game playing Leon's campaign. I was in a college campus when this came out, so playing that opening was quite insane. And I love action Resident Evil just as much as I do survival horror Resident Evil. Next we have Resident Evil 7, Blair Witch Project meets Evil Dead. You can check out my playthrough of that. Then my favorite video game of last year, Resident Evil Village, is a blast. I love this, another awesome werewolf game. And last but not least, we have Resident Evil Revelations. Great side story game. And then we have Resident Evil Revelations 2, and these cutscenes are like the animation of like the CGI movies. Anyway, that does it for my PlayStation collection. Thank you all for watching this long video. And share down in the comments below your favorite games that you have in your personal collections. Stay tuned for more videos, subscribe for more content, and check out these other videos for more content. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Till next time. Until then, play on.